Welcome back to Fresh Start Budgeting. I am closing out week number 2 of my 12-week year. So let's see how it went. So I'm continuing on with my journey with the 12-week year, integrating that into my personal life and my financial journey. And so I'm doing my week 2 check-in and going to show you what kind of worked out this week, what didn't work out, and what my next steps and plans are. I've now completed 2 full weeks of my 12-week year. I have 2 main goals during this 12-week period. One being to integrate the 12-week year into my personal life, and the second one is to have an income allocation of 30% to debts and savings. So week number 1 was really, I feel like, a trial week, just seeing what works, what doesn't work, what I needed to switch up. Week 2 has really been a catch-up week. Because I hadn't been doing expense tracking through the month of October on a very regular basis, and I didn't have a real plan for how I was going to approach my expenses moving forward, I needed to have some time to clean up what happened in October so that when I'm starting out on week number 3, I've got more of a clear slate in terms of how it is that I'm approaching this. Week number 2 also closed out my 100 envelope, and so that was now an opportunity to figure out what that breakdown is going to be and what that means to how the next weeks go. Because there's that opportunity to either get ahead of myself in some different areas, or to put money into debts, or to change up how I do savings challenges. So there's all kinds of things that have kind of closed out in week number 2 to get me ready for week number 3. Just in terms of the activities that we had set out to be doing in week number 2, I've just done this really small tracker here for each day of the week. So the first one being the reading. The green was where it went as I planned. So that was, I read in the morning. After I got to work, I got my coffee all together, sat down and read. Thursday, you see this orange mark. Orange is where that activity didn't happen at all. Friday is the activity happened, but it happened differently than how I had planned it. So it did not happen in the morning when I got to work. I had a bunch of stuff that was kind of piled up waiting for me. So, but I did find a way to make that happen. So I pointed that out in yellow. The green is where I had an opportunity to do food prep for various points. And so that leads into my no spend during the work week. My no spend is really focused in on not spending for lunches, coffees, all that kind of stuff. And so you can see the green, it all worked out until Friday where I did something differently. And so it's got a yellow there. It's not orange because it wasn't a fail. It was just different than I had planned. And then I've got the planning, and the planning is really about closing out the stuff that happened in October for me. And then on this Saturday planning day was more thinking about how I'm going to approach some other things differently in the next coming weeks. And I feel like week number 3 is going to be feeling some of that out, and probably week number 4 as well. So some of the things that I've been preparing for is I've been looking at how I'm going to do savings challenge differently. I've been thinking about how I'm going to be doing my expense tracking differently, and how the 100 envelope is going to be broken down, and then catching up on my expense reviews, because that was something that I didn't do from the end of September through the end of October. I had set amount of money available to me. I didn't go over that amount. I didn't dip into the money that I was setting aside for the 100 envelope challenge, but I did not consistently track those expenses week upon week. So what I did was taking a look at the month of November, thinking really distinctly about how I could break it up. I definitely noticed there's a couple challenges, and one of them being an unbalanced income. So I get paid twice monthly. So it's near the end of the month, not always the end of the month, and the 15th. So what that means for November is I've got 1, 2, 3 weekends that this one paycheck needs to cover. So it causes a little bit of a challenge, because I can't always spend the same every week or the same as I did the previous month or something like that. It's not like a copy paste that I can do. I do have to look at my expenses a little bit differently. And then the 15th, you'll notice I've only got 2 weekends that need to be attached to that. I've also noted down the disability payments, but I'm still going to be throwing most of that towards my savings. And so on this side here, I've kind of jotted out what I think are going to be how I approach these different weeks. I may need to be just really fluid on this until I get more comfortable with it, because I, like so many people, spend most of my money in that first few days that I have my paycheck. All the bills go out, the mandatory debt payments go out. The big food spending that we've been waiting to stock up on all happens. And then it's like, okay, now we need to like pinch pennies for the rest of the time so we can just get to the next paycheck. So I've been thinking a lot about trying to get to the point where I'm able to have the money that I'm spending in this month be the income from the previous month. So that's a lot of what I've been thinking about, what I would like to get to, but that's not something that I can do immediately. So in the meantime, I've put out, kind of separated out what my incomes are, what my bill payments are, what my mandatory debt payments are, and then what my expenses are for each week until I get to the next pay period, and then it happens again. So you can see here my total income, everything included, is $8,000. My mandatory debt is $808. I'm then saying that my actual income is $7,192. Previously, I was including my mandatory payments in my overall debt allocation, debt and savings allocation, and I'd really like to try to actually do it outside of that the same way that I did it in October. So I'm using my $7,192 as my actual income to help do the percentage allocation of that 30% to savings and debts. So that's where I'm making some adjustments this month. It may require a little bit more transition than I've given myself, but that's where my thought process is right now. So when I did my Saturday planning, I looked a little bit about just reflecting back on what some of the challenges were this week and what some of the opportunities are. So one big challenge, and you'll notice it in my previous week as well, is that I get like a mid to end of the week slump. So this Thursday date, it tends to be a really heavy day at work, and I've also been doing the 12-week year at work, so I get kind of at the level of, okay, I just don't want to do this anymore on Thursdays. So that's one of the big challenges that I've noticed. And then that second one being that unbalanced income. So where I see the opportunity is thinking about that income flow differently, which is where I'm testing this out. And then this, for that mid-end week slump, what I did on Friday was I paired the reading with something different. So rather than doing it in the morning, I used my Friday. I had to go out for a meeting, and the meeting, it was at a coffee shop. My coffee was paid for, but I went a little bit early and I took my book and I read while I was at the coffee shop. So it was a no spend in actuality because I didn't spend any money on it, but it was not what I planned for that day. And I did read my book. It was a different location, but that's what I think may work for me, is that when I'm getting to that end of the week, is trying to find a different way of doing that to give myself a little bit of a boost to get through to the end of the week. Then my 30% income to debts and savings, I'm just tracking that through. So I'm not accounting the entire 100 envelope challenge to this 30%. Overall that I'm trying to get to. The 30% overall is $6,450 from October 15th or 16th through to January 7th. So I'm showing I've done $2,400. I also didn't include the mandatory debt payments. I just want those to be like almost part of the bills, and I don't even want to think about it as it doesn't really count is what I'm required to do. I have to do what I have to do. I want to be able to count the extras that I'm doing. So that's what I'm working towards here. Lots of opportunities for the next few weeks to just try and put this together in a way that makes a little bit more sense to me. I think week number 2 went pretty good with all things considered. And I'm actually kind of excited to be able to close out the stuff that happened in October and just move forward. And so that's where I'm kind of getting the momentum going. I think that's why I like the 12-week year, is because every week is important. So it's not like I can sit back and just let a few weeks go by and then try and catch up. Every week's pretty important, so it creates a little bit of a urgency and a momentum to what it is that you're doing. I definitely see the benefits of that activity of reading every day. Somebody else saw me reading the 12-week year, and I ended up lending that to them. I do miss it a little bit. I may order another one, but I've moved on to my uncommon accountability, which I actually almost like better than the 12-week plan. It gets a little bit more into what personal accountability means. So that's going well. The no spending during the work week is going really well. And I kind of like having something a little bit different, either on Thursday or Friday, that just gives me that boost to go forward. So overall, that's the end of week 2, and I'm ready. Well, I'm already in week 3, but I'll share that with you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.